Hey guys, I just recorded this amazing video for you. I am really pumped up. I think you'll see as you watch this video that my energy level just continues to ramp up throughout the video. And I talk about some really awesome topics here. Let's dive into it, guys. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and what does the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, and 15 years hold for us? Let's dive into it. Hi guys, my name's Colin and this is Colin Talks Crypto. I hope you're doing very well today. Here's where I'm at, guys. Now that Bitcoin is above $30,000, I consider this profit-taking territory. Not that I'm immediately going to start taking profit, but it's no longer a buy the dip area for me. I'm not willing to buy in this range. I feel like the price has climbed fairly quickly. If you look back on the past 4 months, we went from $17,000 up to where we are now, which is about $30,200 at the time of recording this video. But that's a dramatic climb in a relatively short period of time. And kind of like in the last bull run, we had a similar thing where Bitcoin dropped down to around 6,000 and then it fell through the floor down to about 3,000. And then it climbed rather rapidly up to about 14,000, which was what is that, 70% of the distance from the bottom up to the previous all-time high of $20,000. We went from $3,000 to $14,000. That's a huge climb in a really short period of time. Now, in that case, what happened after that? It sort of bled for a while, eventually climbing to its new all-time high of 69,000. I think that what we're seeing right now, I suspect it's similar to that. I suspect that we're going to see Bitcoin climb to somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 or so over the next couple of months. And if it continues on this relatively aggressive upward move, I consider this taking profits territory. I'm not interested in risking my dollars and my cash to enter the market when it's already climbed so high. I'm going to continue to sit on some cash. I think I have, off the top of my head, like 18% cash at the moment, something like that. And then the predominance of my portfolio is Bitcoin. So right now I'm riding Bitcoin up and I'm excited to begin to sell and take some profits. I'm willing to sell, almost about half of my Bitcoin as we approach $40,000, but not all into dollars. I'm going to actually take some of that profit and sell it into Ethereum as well. Because as you probably know, if you've been following me, long ago, I sold an enormous chunk of my Ethereum for Bitcoin. And so I've been waiting for that ratio to drop. And I know many of you think that it won't drop. I do think that there will be an opportunity where it does drop at least below 0.06. I think that we'll definitely drop below that at some point. And if we do, then I'll begin slowly converting some of my Bitcoin back to Ethereum because I do want to hold Ethereum for the upcoming bull run. I think it's a very strong contender with its deflationary or less inflationary properties than Bitcoin. So that's my kind of broad stroke overview. That's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at this as we are entering the zone where I'm no longer willing to buy because I do feel strongly that Bitcoin's going to end up at some point in the next year dropping below $30,000. So why would I be buying it now? It would just be like trying to day trade. And so I'm not going to risk my cash doing that than just sitting on it and waiting for a better opportunity in the future. But I am willing to take profits. And so I don't remember exactly the numbers, but I have 3 tiers where I'm going to begin taking profits. The first tier is around 32,000, I think it was like 32,700, something like that, is where I'm going to start taking my first tranche of profits from Bitcoin. And it's a rather small tranche because it's also not super high, right? But I'm going to just dollar cost average out. And so about 4% of my portfolio, of my Bitcoin, I should say, I would be selling around 32,800 or so, roughly speaking. I made an image on Twitter and I shared it a while ago, giving you the exact figures. Subject to change, but that's roughly the plan still in motion here. And then if Bitcoin continues to rocket up, which I actually do expect it probably will, hitting around 37,000, somewhere in that range, I'll begin to sell another maybe 8% of my Bitcoin. And then if we get into the $40,000 range, that's where I'm going to start selling, 20% or more of my Bitcoin, because I want to have a heavy cash position going into what I foresee is a better buying opportunity. If you look back at the last bull run as the analogy, when Bitcoin did climb from 3,000 to 14,000, it did drop after that. And of course there was COVID. And so there was this black swan event where it dipped way down real briefly. But given the macro conditions here, I'm one of these guys that does follow the macro. I'm the guy who looks at the interest rates. I follow what the Fed does, and I follow how devastated the economy is. And I think that there's just a big delay to see the reaction, from all the money printing that happened during the pandemic period, especially, until it actually catches up. And, inflation has started rearing its head over the past couple of years, or really just the past year and a half or so, because there's a big delay from the moment when they print the money to when there actually is the inflationary effects. And I think that it's no secret. The Fed has openly stated its intention is to dramatically increase unemployment and to continue raising interest rates basically until it breaks the system. I mean, that's basically what it's trying to do, and it's not really hiding that fact. So I expect the Fed to continue to slowly increase interest rates. I don't think that these massive banking fails, even though they're horrible, and that should be enough of a red flag, are enough to stop the Fed, because the stock market still hasn't cratered and unemployment is still rather low. And so these are factors that the Fed is looking at, and they're going to continue to push the economy in an uncomfortable position. And what they always do, and they tend to follow lagging indicators, and by the time they've pushed it to the point where they're satisfied, because they're following lagging indicators, the economy is already toast. It's already game over. And that's what we've seen in these past recessions, if you want to call them that, the 2000 dot-com crash, the 2008 housing crisis. These were the Fed over tightening to the point where there was an economic collapse that followed. And I think that this is going to be no different. I really, really strongly feel that we are in for one of the greatest crashes that we have seen probably in many of your lifetimes, those of you who are watching. I think in my lifetime, it's going to be the greatest crash I've ever seen. I think it's very likely to be bigger than 2000 and 2008, because this is like an everything bubble. This is not just a housing bubble. This is not just, the dot-com tech stock bubble. This is like massive money printing irresponsibility to the T. And you have just a huge imbalance in the system right now. And with interest rates going higher and higher, it's going to basically push out all these people who have taken loans. And it's destroying the banks. We already have seen several banks get destroyed. So to me, there's enough writing on the wall, and there's enough clues and enough outspoken statements from the Fed that their intention, they're following through on their intention to basically, they've got to get this inflation, under control. Well, the inflation doesn't get under control unless they continue to raise the interest rates and reduce employment and basically reduce the amount of debt that people are willing to take. And you do that by continuing to increase the interest rates so that people don't take loans because they're too expensive. And instead, they put their money into treasury bills and bonds and notes because those return so high on investment. So you have this shift of people taking money out of the banks and putting it into the government, into the treasury bills, into the bonds, into the notes. And that shift removes all of that liquidity from the banks and it puts it into the government, treasuries, et cetera. And so this is a gradual and a slow process, but it's the process that already took down several banks. And I think that that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think we have a lot more to come of that. But that's sort of the longer picture. And so for me, the near-term picture, before we get to that devastation, is a rally. And I've said this for a while now. It's a rally. And at this point in time, it's currently April. We could still have about 10 or 11 months on average, on historical average, of rally left. It's crazy to say that in such a weird economic time, but the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. And it basically, that first part of that statement, the market can remain irrational. And that's what we're seeing right now, because any rational market right now would be cratering under what the Fed is doing. But there's it's a slow process. And it just takes time for all the different sectors of an economy to be affected by changes that the Fed makes. And so when I looked back over the past, 2008 and 2000 crashes, what I learned is that there's approximately 11 months, up to 11 months. It could be 0 months. It could turn tomorrow, right? It's 0 to 11 months of rally left. That's what I think is going to happen here. So I'm going to take the average and probably hope for another 4 to 6 months of bull run. And then I'm going to get probably a little too apprehensive. Like if we continue to have a bull run, rally for the next 4 to 6 months, like I'm going to feel very confident to begin taking as much profits as I can at that point. I don't feel like waiting all the way till 11 months from now and taking my final profits, because I think that I've already been given such a ridiculous chance to capture a lot of profit if we do have a continued rally for 4 to 6 more months. Even though, like I said, it could take up to 11 months more for this rally to continue. Now, after that period of time, after the 0 to 11 months of rally in front of us, then we're in for, based on what I've seen historically, a massive, massive, great stock market crash. I'm calling it a mega stock market crash. And I think this is going to be, like I said, one of the biggest crashes of many of our lifetimes, maybe on par with the Great Depression or, second to that, only second to that, bigger than the .com and bigger than 2008. So I think that that is what we are up against. And I think that that will take up to 2 years to play out, from top to bottom. Now we've already been dropping for about a year, but there's sort of this sideways motion. And so we'll have to see where we go from here. So it could be up for another 0 to 11 months and then down for another 1 to 2 years after that, where I think that we're going to see the stock market make new all-time lows for this cycle, possibly bottoming out where the top of the S&P 500 is for the 2000 and 2008 peaks. It sort of formed a double top there. And I think that would pose a strong level of support for a crashing economy. And who knows, it's anyone's guess exactly where we're going to end up. But I think that there's a fair chance that that could be it. I think that gives you at least a picture of how severe I think it could be, for the stock market to go from where it is right now. I actually don't know what the S&P is. It's around 4,200, something like that, down to, like, if I remember correctly, 1,600 or at least 2,000, like a 50% drop from where we're at right now, at least, is what I see coming, like that bad. And so that, I guess, gives you the backdrop of why I'm trying to get this cash under my belt. I'm not just trying to sit on all my crypto. I will hold at least 50% of my Bitcoin no matter what, because I could be wrong. And I know that now of this past many bull runs and these cycles. I know how wrong a person can be. You can have 100% certainty, you think, in a direction, and that's an error in itself. No one is 100% correct. And if you think you're 100% correct, well, right there is the indicator that you are mistaking yourself, because it's not possible to be 100% correct. So I know it's possible to be wrong. And that's why I will never sell more than 50% of my Bitcoin, I guess, pending some kind of technological actual error or bug that causes it to be, inflationary to the moon, or some catastrophic issue like that with security. Aside from those kind of technological fails, I will always hold 50% of my Bitcoin, because I could be wrong. And when I say I could be wrong, what I mean is like the stock market could continue to go up because of QE, quantitative easing, money printing. Maybe the Fed just goes buck wild at some point and just starts printing like crazy. And maybe Bitcoin continues to go up. And maybe Bitcoin continues to go up either because it's decoupling, maybe the stock market does crash, but Bitcoin decouples, or QE just keeps going and both the stock market and Bitcoin continue to skyrocket. Like, these are plausible scenarios. They're not out of the realm of fathomability. Bitcoin was created as a direct response to the 2008 housing crisis. And so it is the creation that was spawned out of a very similar kind of recessionary environment. And so it wouldn't be out of one's, conception to conceive that maybe Bitcoin does perform its desired function and decouples and gains in value as a safe haven asset, as it was designed to be, to de-risk all the irresponsibility that the Fed and these governments everywhere, not just the United States Fed, but every government has had with money and printing. I mean, it was very evident during the pandemic how irresponsible basically virtually every government on this planet was with money. I mean, I could name 10 or 20 countries that printed so much money in the name of pandemic and lockdown and this and that. And basically all they did was screw their people out of purchasing power, which they didn't know at the time because people are educationally ignorant about money because public school systems are intentionally omitting that from the education. But I'm sort of digressing here. I guess I'm on a bit of a rant, but it's all by design. The governments wield their power by keeping people ignorant about certain topics. And one of those topics is money, its creation, how the currency comes into existence, how it's literally printed out of thin air, and most importantly, how that devalues your and my purchasing power. So nearly every government did this in droves during the pandemic. And so that's your proof of how irresponsible they are. So I guess that's my big way. Let's see, I'm trying to come back full circle to where I was. That's why we are seeing what we're seeing now. That's why inflation's so bad. That's why the Fed is trying to play catch up with raising interest rates. And that's why it's very likely, in my opinion, that we're going to see another financial collapse, another great mega stock market crash, because the Fed is just so bad at their jobs. They don't tighten when they should have tightened 2 years ago. They printed when they shouldn't have printed. Just everything about the system is ridiculous. On top of the fact that the entire financial system is a scam. If you watch Mike Maloney's Greatest Secrets, Hidden Secrets of Money, you'll understand that it's actually impossible for any country to pay off its debt fully, because you can't pay off the debt plus the interest because that money doesn't exist. And there's always more money coming into creation, and you can never fully pay off the debt. So it's a guaranteed fail. It's a guaranteed crash and collapse at some point, guaranteed. And that's why Bitcoin, barring some catastrophic bug or tech issue, which it's looking pretty strong now after about 14 years of existence, barring that, Bitcoin looks like a pretty dang smart bet. Like I was telling my friend earlier, like if you don't have at least some percent of your net worth in Bitcoin, that is irresponsible. It's a flip on its head, 180 degrees from 10 years ago when Bitcoin was looked at as really risky. Back then it was like, oh my gosh, should I put 5% of my net worth in Bitcoin? That it could be risky, it could fail. It could be really volatile. Well, now it's like, you're an idiot if you don't put 5% of your net worth at least into Bitcoin. You're a fool, because you're allowing the guaranteed fail of the dollar to be your future. Like, you are so scared of innovation that you can't put 5% in something that's proven to gain tremendously. I don't know how many thousands of percent Bitcoin has gained over the dollar since its inception, but it's something ridiculous. And those gains will continue to happen, maybe on a lessening basis, but they will continue to happen. So this is becoming quite the speech here, guys. I just came on here to tell you that I'm in profit-taking territory with Bitcoin. Above 30,000, I'm only looking at taking profits. I'm not even considering buying. That's just me. I'm not saying that's financial advice for anybody else. I just don't feel comfortable. I feel like, the chances of us seeing a new all-time high, and if we do, great, because like I said, I'm not selling more than 50% of my Bitcoin. I've learned to ride the edge both ways, not to be all in cash or all in Bitcoin, to be kind of like in the middle ground. So I'm comfortable. But like, I just give it really low odds of us seeing a new all-time high in such a horrible, horrible macroeconomic environment. And so that's that. I wanted to also tell you about my Ethereum and Bitcoin kind of stuff. So like a year ago or something, a long time ago, I sold all my Ethereum for Bitcoin. And the ratios kind of come back down to close to where I made that trade. But I want it to drop further before I begin to sell my Ethereum back for Bitcoin. So I'm still looking at that. I keep my eye on that chart, but I'm not ready to like jump the gun. I know that we have the Shanghai upgrade, which unlocks 18 million staked ETH, or enables it to be unlocked. And it's not going to all come out at once. It's staggered over a period of many months, because that's a smart way to, prevent the price from just being utterly decimated by people trying to front run each other and crash the price selling to get out first. But I do think we'll see some downward pressure. Now, some people think that won't happen. Who knows? We'll find out, right? I think there's a chance, though. The merge itself many months ago was a very bullish event for Ethereum. And I think that enabling the unstaking and the unlocking of Ethereum really, I don't know how bullish that can be. I mean, yeah, it's feature improvements. It's good for the long run for Ethereum. You got to be able to unstake your ETH. You can't have it locked up forever. But enabling the unstaking of ETH, I think in the short term could have some downward, momentum on the price, and we will find out. But if it does, then I'll be ready to begin buying back some of my ETH with the Bitcoin. And I will look forward to that, because I really do want to hold some ETH, but I don't want to, buy back in at a loss. So pretty much anywhere below 0.06 is where I'm interested in starting to begin buying back in. I just have this nagging feeling that like over the couple of years ahead, like after we get through the rally and then we actually enter into the great economic mega collapse that I see coming, I'm gonna have to stop here because my throat's getting sore from talking so much. But I feel like in that period of time, it's possible that the ratio of ETH to Bitcoin could drop dramatically. We could see a 0.03, 0.035, 0.025. I don't know how bad it'll get, ETH to BTC ratio. And if you look on the charts, that doesn't look completely ridiculous. If you zoom out to like 10 years on the Ethereum BTC chart, it doesn't look completely ridiculous. But I just feel like that could happen. And so I do want to hold a boatload of ETH in the years to come, but I want to be patient. I have been very patient so far. Pardon me. And I want to continue to be patient, but I want to start accumulating below 0.06 ETH per Bitcoin. Okay, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit here, guys. I think that gives you the most important stuff. It's just been a while since I've made a video, so I guess I have a lot of stuff saved up here. Yeah, I'm really interested and looking forward to starting to take some profits. 32,800 will be my very first small profit taking. And if it goes up from there, I'll be happy to take some more. And I look forward to having, like, my goal, I think, is to have like 50% of my portfolio. We'll see if I can pull this off. That's a lot of cash to have, but 50% of my portfolio in cash going like out of the rally. I want to have that much cash, and then the rest Bitcoin and maybe some ETH if it has dropped below that 0.06 threshold. But basically I want to have 50% Bitcoin, 50% cash, at the moment where we begin our final descent after this current rally into that couple year mega stock market crash. And that's my game plan, guys. And then just to give you the really, really long term, like I feel like the opportunity that is coming for us, for crypto buyers and holders, especially Bitcoin, especially ETH, from the bottom of this mega crash coming will be like potentially generationally wealth creating. It'll be so humongous. If you can buy whatever, I don't know what the price will be, right? Like the price of Bitcoin and the price of ETH in 2 years from now. Let's say that the bottom is in 2 to 3 years. That's roughly when I think. I think around 2026 is when the bottom of this great stock market crash will be, whenever it is. If you're in there buying relatively at the bottom, I think that the multiples you're going to get on that could be like 100 to 200x for Bitcoin and Ethereum. For example, like if, I'm not saying for sure, if Bitcoin hits $10,000 in 2 to 3 years from now, at the bottom of this great economic collapse, well, I think that Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million still. Like I'm no bear, I'm no perma bear. I'm just able to look at different time frames. So if you're able to buy Bitcoin at $10,000 and it's going to go to $1 million within the next 10 to 15 years, that's 100x on your investment, guys. So if you put in $100,000, you're going to have $10 million of Bitcoin. I mean, that's how good I think it could be. I really do. If you put in $10,000 and you time it right at the bottom of that great stock market crash, you buy Bitcoin with $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, one Bitcoin. I think that one Bitcoin could be worth $1 million, 100x return within the next 10 to 15 years after that. That's the kind of gains I see coming. I don't really ever talk about that because it's so far in the future, but like I really do look at the big picture, and that's where I'm at. And that's just Bitcoin. Like, I'm not even talking about Ethereum. If Bitcoin is going to make a 100x gain in that 10 to 15 year period following the great stock market crash, well, what do I think Ethereum's going to do? I don't even know, but it's going to be more than 200x, probably like 250 to 500x. I'm just kind of making up the numbers here, but I think that the 250 part is very accurate. 250x minimum, let's put it that way. So if you bought, let's say, $100,000 of Ethereum in 3 years from now, the bottom of the great stock market crash, and I think it's going to do a 250x in 10 to 15 years after that, could do a 1,000x for all I know, right? But let's say a 250x. You have, what is that? I got to do the math. $25 million, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. $100,000 will turn you into $25 million in 10 to 15 years after that. Is that fucking crazy? Pardon me. I had to swear somewhere in this video. That was it. And so if you had, let's pull the decimal point back. Let's just do another experiment. Let's say you only had $10,000. You'd have $2.5 million. If you bought at the bottom, you know, let's say that Ethereum goes to $500. I don't know, $500, and it does a 250x minimum. With $10,000, you could have $2.5 million. I really think that that's possible. I'm not even joking. Not financial advice, but this is how I see the future. This is why I am in crypto and I'm so bullish for its technology. You heard me talk just earlier in this video about how crazy I think that the governments around the entire world are, not just the United States, with their irresponsibility with money and currency. Like, it is ridiculous how irresponsible they are. And if you add in things like the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies, where they're going to try to take over everything we can do with money and control our every life and cut us off if we're a political opponent or if we're outspoken, that is unacceptable. That is freaking unacceptable to me. So don't get me wrong. I want to make a 250x of my Ethereum. I want to make 100x of my Bitcoin. But to say I can do that and I can support an ecosystem that frees me from this tyrannical regime, this BS that every government is involved in, it makes me freaking sick. It really does. That is amazing to me. That is why I'm in crypto, guys. I think I just kind of summarized it all in this video. I think this is a good place to end off. I am pumped. I am so pumped. I think I pumped myself up talking about crypto and just the futures that are imaginable. So if you're down in the dumps about your losses from this last bear market, just relax, accumulate, and have some dry powder on the sidelines so that if the stock market does crash like I think it will in the coming 2 to 3 years, you're able to take advantage of some of the greatest buying opportunities that you may see in your entire life. You might be able to pull off 100x on Bitcoin over the next 10 to 15 years. You might be able to pull off a 250x on your Ethereum or more over the next 10 to 15 years after that crash. That to me is something worth fighting for. It's something worth investing my money in, and it's something worth, you know, pulling my energy away. You know, if I give my money to the government, I am supporting them. If I give it to crypto, I'm opting out. That's my true vote. You know, I think that voting is so fake and so fraudulent in most countries in the world, including the United States. I think that the real way to vote is with your feet. And trust me, it's not going to go down without a fight. And maybe some of the crash that happens in the future, some of the price crashes because the United States gets desperate and it bans Bitcoin or it tries to ban Ethereum. You know, if they do something crazy like that, yeah, we're going to see a price collapse, but that's a buying opportunity. And I hope that all of you keep the big picture with me, because I am, as you can see, I'm very excited about the future that this is. And let's leave it at that, guys. I hope you're having a great day. Talk to you again soon. And I'll try to not make it so long since I make another video, but we'll see. Have a great day, guys. Take care.